Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Today we continue our preparation for the new solo Star Wars story movie that's coming out very soon by looking at Han Solo's past in the expanded universe. Last episode we covered his childhood. In this episode we'll be talking about Han's legendary career as an Imperial officer. Yeah, that's right. The Han Solo, rogue outlaw smuggler extraordinaire, was in the Imperial Navy. Where did you think he learned all those tricks he uses to outsmart the Empire? You see, by the time Han Solo reached adulthood, he was beginning to tire of the outlaw life. He was tired of running and lying to everyone around him. He wanted a normal life and a stable life. And since he was a young boy, he'd always wanted to be one thing, and that was to be an Imperial starfighter pilot. I know that kind of sounds surprising, but that's what a lot of kids wanted to do in the Star Wars galaxy. Even Luke Skywalker wanted to go to the Imperial Academy and become a pilot. I mean, who wants to be a moisture farmer for the rest of their lives? Now, Han's path to becoming an Imperial pilot was a little more complicated than most. For one, being an orphan, he didn't have any legitimate documents proving who he was. On top of that, without the right connections and family name, it was quite hard to get an opportunity to make it into one of the more prestigious Imperial academies. But like here on Earth, money in the Star Wars galaxy solves everything. Han at the time had gone semi-legit. He was working as a shuttle pilot for the spice factory world of Yalicia. This Hut-owned operation was run by a group of Talandi Till, giant cow-like aliens whose mating calls sent out waves of telepathic pleasure to other sentient beings. The Talanda Till used this power to attract weak-minded individuals to come to the planet of Yalsa as pilgrims. They claimed that the powerful waves of pleasure they were emitting were a part of a process known as exaltation, and cleansed the soul. These so-called pilgrims became addicted to the exaltation process and became slaves in the Hutt spice factories. Han at the time had fallen in love with one of the Corellian slaves. Her name was Bria Theron. Before she became a slave, she had studied to become a museum curator. She just happened to have the right skills to curate the head Talanda Till's art collection, which was extremely expensive. Han devised a daring plan with Bria to steal the most precious pieces of that collection, and as an added bonus, he would destroy the spice factory as a diversion. Their plan more or less worked, and Han ended up escaping in one piece, although he managed to pick up quite a large bounty on his head. But for now, everything was great. Bria's father happened to be a very influential businessman on Corellia. He was able to write a letter of recommendation to the Imperial Academy on Han's behalf. Han, using the money he had stolen, had created a brand new identity with all the right pedigrees. Han even got a completely new retinal pattern, kind of like what Tom Cruise does in Minority Report. Next up were the Imperial entrance exams. While Han Solo never really had a traditional education, he was really street smart. He also spent time at the library occasionally to learn about many different subjects that interested him. He knew in order to be a good pilot and navigator, he needed to have a good grasp of math. He also really enjoyed history, especially all the battles and wars. Han had also attended a few high-end Corellian schools as a part of a long-term con he had done with his former mentor. So, Han did have an education. It was pretty patchwork and random, and consequently he bombed certain parts of his written exam. But when it came to flying skills and combat skills, Han was easily at the top of his class. While on Yalicia, Han had access to a state-of-the-art simulator, which allowed him to practice all sorts of flying maneuvers. While in the academy, Han met several interesting individuals, including future TIE fighter ace Suntir Fel, and rich playboy Mako Pence. Han continued excelling as a pilot and also continued bombing his exams. He also received several demerits for discipline issues, but oftentimes that was just Mako Pence dragging him into crazy stunts. Mako finally crossed the line when he destroyed their training base's mascot Moon with a small amount of antimatter. Mako was kicked out of the academy for that. For the most part, Han's flight instructors and teachers thought he was extremely capable, but worried about certain character issues he had. The young pilot was far too independent and headstrong. Nonetheless, Han Solo graduated at the top of his class and earned the rank of lieutenant, which is kind of when everything started going bad. Lieutenant Solo was deployed with Commander Nightclass on the Imperial-class Star Destroyer Flankard. The Flankard was deployed in Sector J-19 in the Outer Rim. Its main duties usually revolved around gathering slaves from slavers for the Empire's various construction projects. On top of that, Nightclass was an adamant believer in human high culture. That was the Galactic Empire's policy of elevating humanity above all the other weird-looking aliens. Hashtag humanity first. Now, naturally, Han Solo didn't get along with Nightclass, and in general found life aboard an Imperial Star Destroyer boring and soul-crushing. On a routine mission to pick up slaves, the Flankard came upon a derelict slave ship full of young Wookiees and an injured Wookiee male. Apparently, the Wookiee male had freed the younger Wookiees from Trandoshan slavers. He ordered Lieutenant Solo to board the ship and skin the Wookiee alive. Han Solo refused to. For one, he didn't really like skinning sentient beings that were still alive. He also really had a soft spot for Wookiees. The closest thing he ever had to a mother was actually a Wookiee cook that he grew up with, and she had given her own life to save his. And he had promised to one day repay her by saving one of her own kind. Night Class obviously was furious and removed Han's flying privileges. He also took the injured Wookiee and turned him into a slave. Han and the Wookiee would later both be assigned to the Imperial Hall of Heroes construction site on Coruscant. Once again, the two would run into that dickhead Night Class, who began whipping the Wookiee. The large furry beast had enough and lunged at Night Class, and before Night Class could shoot the Wookiee, Han Solo stunned him with his own blaster and helped the Wookiee escape. That Wookiee, of course, was Chewbacca, and he would go on to owe Han a life debt for saving him. Shortly after, Han Solo would be dishonorably charged from the Imperial Navy. And that's probably for the best. Knowing Han Solo, he probably wouldn't have lasted that much longer in the Imperial Navy anyway. The guy always had problems with authority and stuck-up aristocrats. Well guys, don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook, and also hit that notification button so you know when we release the rest of our awesome content. We'll be covering a lot more of Han Solo's past in preparation for the new Han Solo movie. Well guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.